welcome to another Tech Talk where we will explain a bit more about Docker and containers on Cloud Foundry. With me, we also have Eric Michiels, who will join me here for this session. So here's a short overview of the agenda that we will cover on the topics today. So we will briefly mention that the capabilities of running Docker containers on the Cloud Foundry on the IBM Cloud. And as an example, we will also deploy a Mosquito MQTT broker using Docker onto Cloud Foundry. And after that, we will show you how to do container communication as an example from within Node-RED to communicate with the Mosquito broker. And then in the summary, we'll show you some guidelines, tips, and tricks. So I've opened up the IBM Cloud login page. So you can do that to cloudibm.com, where you can also register for a free Lite account without credit card. So you do all of the services or the actions I will show you today. So I need to log in with my account. And first you will see an overview, the dashboard. Let me close this one. Oh, yeah. And there we see that we also have some applications running, some Cloud Foundry apps. We have a Node-RED instance already running and some Cloud Foundry services. In my case, it's the cloud and database that comes as part of the Node-RED deployment. Now, if you want to install Node-RED onto the cloud, you can just go to the catalog, type in Node-RED, and here you have it, the Node-RED app. And this will guide you to creating your own Node-RED application on the IBM Cloud. And it comes with a cloud and database with a free tier. This will be used to store the flows that you will develop into Node-RED. So let's get back to the dashboard. So we have our Node-RED environment up and running. So that is okay. We'll come back to that later. Now we'll open up a terminal. So first of all, we need to log into the IBM Cloud. We can either do that using IBM Cloud login or IC login. It's an alias that is automatically installed when you deploy or install the command line interface. Okay, and now we still need to connect to our Cloud Foundry environment. You can IBM Cloud target CF. Now for the Cloud Foundry commands, you can issue IBM Cloud CF. But I've also installed an alias, so you can just type CF. In order to know what kind of domains we have on the Cloud Foundry runtime, we can just issue the command CF domains. And you will see that we're in the German region, so we have the EUDE mybluemix.net. This is typically where your applications will be deployed when they have an interface that exposed to the outside. And you also see that we have the apps internal. So what we will do is deploy the MQTT broker on the internal communication network. So we can just do cf push MQTT broker, Docker image. We specify the public image of the MQTT broker. There will probably multiple environments or registries where you can find this publicly. And we will specify the domain on the apps internal. And we will use a random route in order to connect to that MQTT broker. So you will take the MQTT broker from the public Docker hub, and it will use that random route for us to use on Cloud Foundry.
So if you could also use, in this case, your own private registry instead of this public registry, that would work as well?
Yeah, that's correct. But in our case now, we use just a publicly Mosquito broker. Of course, if you want to deploy our own Docker containers, we would have to build, we can build them ourselves. We can either store them in the Docker hub, which is protected, can be protected with a user ID and a password. But we can also deploy that from the IBM registry, which is available in our cloud as well. And we can use that in order to deploy like we did over here. So you can build your own Docker container, put it in a registry on the IBM Cloud, and pull it from there.
Okay, great.
And in fact, if you want to see where this registry is, I think it's here, you need to find on Kubernetes. You find it registry. I'm using the one in Frankfurt. And then here it's all explained how you can use the commands. Like you see, for example, you can just pull a hello world from Docker Hub. You can tag it with the link to the IBM registry, and then you can just push it through the IBM registry. And from there, we can pick it up and deploy it through Cloud Foundry.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So now you can see that my MQTT broker is running. You also notice that it's running on the internal communication. That means that we cannot access it from outside. So what we will do now is set up communication somewhere in order to, for our application on Node-RED to access this MQTT broker. MQTT uses the protocol which is based on TCP, and the Cloud Foundry deployment on the IBM Cloud does not allow TCP communication from the outside. If we're looking at the routes, you can also see that my Node-RED is running on the domain to the outside, and my MQTT broker is on the internal apps. So we have two applications that are running, my MQTT broker and the Node-RED, both with their URLs. And now what we need to do is we need to add a network policy. So in order that our Node-RED can communicate to the MQTT broker. I already have my Node-RED configured. So let's first show this in Node-RED. We can visit the app URL, go to our flows, and I have a small sample application, which is using MQTT to connect to. And if we look at the communication here, it says it's a publicly available MQTT broker. But let's just add a new broker. And the name of that one will be that URL. Default port 1883. Let's deploy that, and we will see that is not able to communicate because the communication is not yet established. So next we will add a network policy. Let's see what network policies we have. Currently, there's nothing defined here, so we will add one where we say add network policy, and this is the name of my application. And the destination app is the MQTT broker, and we will specify the protocol, TCP, and we also specify the port 1883. So now the network policy is added. We can verify this with the CF network policies, and we have set up a route between the Node-RED and the MQTT broker on port 1883. And as you can see already, the MQTT is already connected in there. So that's a way you can set up TCP communication from one container to another. Well, in this case, these are Cloud Foundry containers within the IBM Cloud. But that's a way you could set up communication between those environments. Because in this case it's specific, it's using TCP. Of course, this same mechanism can be used if you think of microservices, where you have a main application that is communicating to the outside, but you might have some microservices internally which you don't want to expose to the outside world. Of course, you could shield them off by deploying them on the internal network, and then set up communication from your main application onto these different microservices. So important to know here is that TCP communication is not deployed on the Cloud Foundry for external applications, but internally you can use that using this mechanism.
Yeah, if you told us about this connection now, but I see there are quite some interesting nodes in the Node-RED application. What are you trying to do there in that Node-RED application exactly?
This Node-RED application is a sample application. I'll show you the link right away where you can download it if you want. It's a sample application just to show you like a sort of a home automation system. I'm using some, well, could be sensors that are connected to MQTT. It's using a dashboard to make it visual, like the gauge, the home away buttons, and you can access those. Let's see on the dashboard. And the dashboard looks something like this. It's the Home Assistant. For example, you have a switch here where you can set if I'm home, could be detected by your GPS location, or an app that detects motion within your living room, and it will switch on automatically the temperature. Of course, I can still override it if I turn the knob manually. I think it's because I changed this connection to the MQTT broker. Let's all use the new MQTT broker because messages are not coming on the right broker. Let's see here. Okay, now let's deploy it. Yeah. So you see, you still have full control over the heating system, but as soon as the system detects that you're either home or away, it will switch automatically the temperature. So that's just a sample flow that is being implemented over here. And this is using the inject nodes. You can easily test your flow. For example, this one will just inject a timestamp. It will generate a random number between 1 and 10. And it will just push that onto the topic and put this on the queue, on the MQTT as a message. And here, these listeners are acting on that, and it will display it in the gauge. So if I'll select a random number, you can see it's between 0 and 10. Of course, there's a debug message. Let's clear this one. If I inject another one, you can see from the debug yeah. The payload is 10. He injected this on this channel here on this MQTT, and we'll see that our temperature is 10. So that's an easy way to test your flow. And here the switch is implemented. For example, the switch will, if it's on or off, it will take those directions. And again, put this on the sensor for it to display through the gauge. It's just a sample flow. If you're interested in this sample flow, you can find it. Yeah, that's the one, the example JSON here. That's the one you can just download and import it into your dashboard using the import functionality, paste it in, or select a file to import, and it will configure that dashboard for you. The only nodes that you need to install additionally onto the palette are the ones, the dashboard ones, like you see over here, and the random one. So that's one you can go to the manage palette, and you can just install the dashboard one. And this one, the Node-RED dashboard, you see it's already installed. Or the random one, Node-RED, Node random, to generate a random number. But You can also just give it a fixed number if you want.
Nice.
There's not so much information on how to set up this network communication, so I think it's useful to know that this exists, and of course, what are the limitations for that. Normally, if you do CF domains, you get a list of domains, and if TCP would be supported, you would see here the type TCP, but this is not the case. So then if that would be the case, then you could configure TCP also for the outside mode. So this is something important to remember. Of course, if you're using internal services that have HTTP or HTTPS traffic, then that should not be a problem. So this is it for this time, and hope to see you on the next session.